We're going to talk about one of Conestoga's wine storage options called a Wine Lattice Kit. I would say 5-6 years ago we were doing a lot of these. We're doing less and less of it. I think people are using maybe more like bar coolers or something. I'm not sure. We're not doing as many of these, but they do come up. This is a Wine Lattice Kit already done. We're going to show how they go together in a moment. When you order the WLK kit, and we're going to make this point a few times in here because you got to make sure you understand it. The WLK is just the Wine Lattice Kit component. It's not the cabinet box. So if you're doing a Wine Lattice Kit for a wall 3018 or an 1830 or a 1536 or whatever, you got to make sure you're ordering the cabinet box and the grid work. We'll make this point a couple times in the video as well. Make sure you're using matching interior option, and this grid work will already come finished to match the cabinetry that you're ordering. So there's no worry with that. The Wine Lattice Kit is meant to take these little bottles, and when you put them in, typically not a wine drinker, but I think you want the corks wet, so most people put them in like that, and they size this accordingly. And if you want to pull it forward and do your wine bottle straight, you can do that as well. So let's get into the assembly of this bugger. Not hard, but not super straightforward either. We get a lot of questions on it, so stay tuned and we'll walk you through it. All right, before we get started showing you how to install the WLK Wine Lattice Kit, let me just go through what comes in the kit. First of all, the WLK kit is not the cabinet itself. The cabinet box is ordered separately. So here I've got a wall, I think it's a 3018. I don't have the back in it yet. I'll explain why in a minute, but this is a wall 3018, and when I want a wall Wine Lattice Kit in that wall 3018, I have to order the WLK 3018 separately. So there's a couple things you have to know when you're ordering your cabinet. First of all, be sure to order it with a matching interior. There's no door on this, so you want the inside to match whatever you're doing out here on your doors and exterior components. So if it's maple with a stain or cherry with a stain, whatever, you want to do the same thing on the inside. You also want to delete your shelf and shelf holes. So order the cabinet with no shelf holes and no shelves, and that way you won't have, and actually this is a wall 1830, I apologize. You won't have shelf holes in here that you're going to see when this installation is done. So that's on the cabinet side. The WLK 1830 is just a simple line item on your quote request. And what you get in that kit is just some pieces of molding, which retain it. It's a retainer molding. I'll show you how that works in a moment. And you get two of the Wine Lattice pieces themselves, the actual diamond grids. These are supposed to be cut to size on the inside of the cabinet. What we find sometimes is that due to just fractional dimensional changes based on humidity or tolerances in the assembly itself, you may find these fit a little tight. You can always just trim them. You can trim them with a handsaw. I used a sliding table saw we have in the back. Whatever it takes to trim these down if you have a little bit too tight of a fit. You don't want to fight them because if you push them in, you might break the joints. The other point I want to make on these is there is a front and a back. So the front and back you can tell most easily by looking for the pins. I'll set this one down. This one I can see an assembly pin right here. I can see how they held the grid together with these pins. You want to make sure that's facing the back of the cabinet, not the front. So try to pick a front and a back and put your more beautiful side forward. Now, last thing I want to stress before we put these in, normally in our assemblies we always talk about 1 inch or 1 1/4 brads when you're putting the cabinets together. I would back off and do a 3/4 inch brad. And the reason is you're going to be coming through the inside of the cabinet to tack these moldings in, and you don't want to blow through the side of the cabinet. So you want to use the shortest brad you can to go through this 1/4 inch material. If you can find a 5/8 brad, I'm not even sure if they make one, or even a 1/2 inch, that would work. Okay, so we're going to use, I think we got 3/4 in there, and I'll probably have to toenail it so it won't blow through, but let me show you how this works. You get 8 pieces of molding. There's 4 for the bottom in this case, and 4 for the top. All of them have a little bevel on the edge, or a little round over. This is basically Conestoga's number 14 scribe molding. They cut these to size, once again. You may have to trim these as well. I did in this case. I just trimmed about 1/16 of an inch off. And here's how these work. You want the profiled side facing forward. So we lay one in, and I'm not going to actually install it yet. I'm just going to lay it in there to show you. You lay one in. And now we're going to lay our lattice in. We're going to do our nicer side forward, as I mentioned earlier. And we're just going to push that in until it's right up to the front of the cabinet. And again, you're going to have one of these pieces of molding, top and bottom. I'm only demonstrating the bottom here. Then you take another piece, and now you want the flat side facing the back of the lattice kit. So that would go in, and then we're going to pin it in place. Now we put another one of these, again, rounded, nice side facing forward. We're going to go in And the dimension you want here is you want the front of this and the front of the back lattice to be about 7 inches for a normal wine bottle. And I'll show you why that's important after the assembly is complete. Then you'll take your second lattice and lay it in. I'm not going to show that because you can't see me back here. And then your last piece will go again flat side facing the lattice work. It will go in, and these things are basically pinching the lattice work top and bottom. So the lattice is floating inside this grid or this retainer molding you've created, and all this is painted or stained to match. So the end result is a very nice, clean looking lattice. And once we get done with the full installation here, we can talk through how that wine bottle will fit. Now, main point I want to make is you have to do this whole thing, and I'm going to do it in a moment. You have to do it with the cabinet face down. Okay, so we're going to lay our cabinet down and work down into the box, and you have to do it with the cabinet back off. So when you know you have a WLK kit going in and you're building your cabinet box, keep the back, lay it off to the side, and that'll be the last thing you do when the WLK is installed is put your back on. Okay, so we're done our assembly of the WLK. We got our Wine Lattice Kit installed, got our moldings in here, so you can see the front and back of each of these. What I've got here is 7 inches from here to here. And that works well if you're doing something like that, and you got the cork wanting to be wet. If you're going to pull the wine bottle forward and do it level, you probably want this rear piece of lattice to be a little closer because you don't want the back of the bottle to miss that lattice work. So the distance from your front to back lattice is really depending on the bottles you're putting in. Just do some measurement and find a dimension you like. These will not take, I'm not a wine drinker, they will not take Magnum bottles. So you want to make sure you're only ordering this for your standard, whatever those are, 3-inch wine bottles. If you have any questions, give us a call, 888-211-6482. Thanks for watching.